I'm King Lincoln. It's time for the Humble Choice August 2022 review, which is also my birthday month. Once again, we have 8 titles to go through, and I played all 8 of them for an hour on stream. Even crazier this month, I played all 8 in a single day as well, which was quite an experience. Now I'm ready to tell you which ones you should check out and who is going to enjoy them. I've actually covered half of these titles previously, but I'm giving them a second look to see if my opinions have changed on them. Let's get to the games, starting with The Ascent. Diablo meets Cyberpunk with guns. The Ascent starts with an interesting concept, with the players being an indentured slave to a megacorporation and being told where to go and what to do. Players start dealing with the sewers and will find a ton of enemies to slaughter there. Though after that first level, the megacorporation just defaults, and like many concepts, it's not well explained. The game starts sending the player to other locations to shoot it out with other enemies though. The Ascent plays a lot like typical action RPGs. Well, mostly. I like to think of The Ascent as Diablo with guns, or a looter shooter without meaningful loot. I almost question if the developer moved away from loot late in the development process, because without that focus on loot, the Ascent's levels drag on quite a bit, and there's chests where loot probably should have been stored. However, the cyberpunk aesthetic works, and the hub is large, overpopulated, and dense, which is exactly what cyberpunk calls for. Pick this up if you want to wade through a ton of enemies with guns blazing, or you like that cyberpunk style. There's a good solid combat system here, though the game does sometimes get monotonous and can be a slog. There's a lot of inventive designs for the characters, aliens, and world. I just wish the levels were a little bit better paced. Hot Wheels Unleashed, racing little toy cars and epic courses. Hot Wheels are almost a rite of passage, and I think almost everyone has seen these toys. Now you can grab them and race them around corners at breakneck speed, taking your favorite vehicles and drifting and zipping through a track to master those corners. There are a lot of different cars and many classic designs. The racing feels good, and the mastering of the drift and courses will take you time. Multiple difficulties range from extremely simple to challenging, or to even impossible depending on how you want to approach the game. Hot Wheels Unleashed also dabbles in a lot of gray areas. Getting randomized loot in blind boxes means progression is randomized. I even got a duplicate on my 4th box opened, which sucks. There are daily quests to promote FOMO, a battle pass, and DLC, like a lot of DLC. There are currently 61 pieces of DLC, and they will cost over $200 to buy them all. Not that people would, hopefully. But this feels like a game designed to at least make you consider paying more. The races are a bit unforgiving as well, where if you wipe out in the final 2 laps, there's almost no chance of getting back to first place on harder difficulties. Pick this up if you like arcade racing games and have a fondness for Hot Wheels. This is a lot of fun to see the famous Hot Wheels license in the game, but there is still a slimy layer here of the game being a platform to kind of demand more money and shove battle passes at the player. The biggest sin though is that the Hot Wheels Unleashed just doesn't go completely off the wall with the ideas from the first moment of the game. I really just want to jump through a ring of fire in the tutorial.
Oh my god, Louise!
Think it's funny making me run like that?
I miss you.
A Plague Tale: Innocence, a visual feast with a solid story. A Plague Tale: Innocence starts with a hunt that ends up going wrong, with the family dog being taken by something. It's a strange and dark opening, and as a dog lover, I really hate when dogs are used as a plot device. However, A Plague Tale doesn't end there, as our main character watches her family and their estate being sacked, and she and her brother flees from the danger. This may sound confusing, and it is, and that's where A Plague Tale's strength comes from. It's not a game with easy answers or long expositions. Much of the game is more about the subtext of the moment, and the story is told compellingly. The gameplay is based on stealth as well, but has several action sequences that were exciting for the player to experience as they ran from different groups of enemies. The game is beautiful, however there is a few awkward animations that slip into the game as well. Overall though, the game looks and plays fantastic, and quite often I was just dazzled by the experience. Pick this up if you want a great story. This is more of a stealth game than anything, but it's also a game that will grip the player and make them ask questions. Those questions will keep players returning and experiencing this rich story. Gas Station Simulator. I think this is what people think a simulator game is. Gas Station Simulator has the player start by buying a gas station, apparently selling their car to do so, and then having to fix up the gas station and take it over. Players will have a lot of different chores and tasks to complete to continue progressing through the story here, and the game will hold their hand through most of it. The one problem I have with Gas Station Simulator is there's not much here that feels polished or interesting. There's no zen-like experience or minor details that the player can focus on. Instead, Gas Station Simulator keeps throwing out jobs for the player to do and then slings achievements at them constantly. I got 24 achievements in my hour and I probably could have done even better. There's also a decent amount of bugs. I couldn't even get keyboard inputs to show up without disconnecting the controller completely, and there are reports that the game will crash over time. Pick this up if you love the simulator genre and gas stations interest you, but I am a huge fan of Lawn Mowing Simulator and have played through all of Power Wash Simulator. I love that game, and I'm not sure about this game. The art, gameplay, and experience here feels a little cheap, and that's a shame because conceptually this could have been a lot of fun.
Do you know how a Rorschach test works? I show you an ink blot.
In Sound Mind, a great example of psychological horror. The first 40 minutes of In Sound Mind had me going. Players begin by exploring a strange basement and then a building with a lot of events happening. There's quite a few moments that had me questioning my sanity or if I was remembering things correctly, and that's where psychological horror is the strongest. There are a few moments that were so well designed that I was amazed. And then the horror kicked in. Those first 40 minutes made me think I could handle In Sound Mind, and then the first scare rattled me so hard that I was questioning if standing in a location would count as playing the game for the purposes of this review. I did keep trying to play, but In Sound Mind had my number. I am a scaredy cat though, and I don't like horror at all, so being able to play the first section was nice, but this game feels extremely terrifying, though it has a compelling story, so fans of psychological horror or just normal horror will have something exciting to experience here. Pick this up if you want to be scared. The game didn't just get me, it demolished me. And it was done in a skillful way that made me appreciate its craft. The atmosphere and experience here are well designed, as are some of the more unsettling moments. Mind Scanners. Papers, please, but dealing with mental health. Mind Scanners feels like the game from someone trying to imitate Lucas Pope's hit, Papers, Please, but with a unique twist. Players will have to help the government to scan characters' minds, judging their mental capacity, and then fix insane patients when necessary using interesting devices. The overall goal is to understand what happened to your daughter and attempt to rescue her. Though unlike Papers, Please, Mind Scanner has players spend entirely too much time with most characters, creating a game that players might not be as excited to play through a second time. Where Papers, Please focuses on stamping passports and moving on, Mind Scanners deals with more how players will classify quirks. Pick this up if you want to play a game like Papers, Please or Not Tonight, but with a focus on mental health. It's a solid and unique idea and worth the first playthrough. However, after beating the game on Xbox Game Pass, I really couldn't get up the energy to replay the entire experience to chase down other achievements or see the other choices that players could make due to the time required. Emily is Away 3, the third game of Emily is Away, now with more Zuckerberg. I'm just going to be calling this game Emily is Away 3 instead of Heart Sign or Less Than 3, but that's right, Emily is Away is back, and this time instead of the AIM experience, players are creating their profile on Facebook with the help of their friends. If you're new to Emily is Away, these are unique games where players focus on talking to in-game friends over AIM, or now Facebook Messenger. While there are similar ideas here, this is a brand new story told over 5 chapters, each taking almost an hour and telling a robust story. I bought this game when it was released last year, and I do enjoy the story, but I don't really enjoy the game as much as there's a desire to see all the different endings and experiences, but there's no way to speed up the experience. If players want to see all the possibilities, they're going to have to sit through mostly the same dialogues and make different choices, and Emily is Away 3's pace is plodding at times. It works the first playthrough because it's fresh, but on a replay it can be very slow. Pick this up if you want a unique storytelling experience. This is one of those games that explores how games can tell stories. It's a strange experience when you start to connect to these characters due to how robust they are. It's not perfect, but it's far better than you might expect. Also, the Facebook site is amazing, and the users will send you to spoofed YouTube pages where you'll see many classic videos and remember what the internet was like over 10 years ago. Omno, a beautiful experience created by a solo developer. Jonas Mank created Omno alone, and I'm incredibly impressed. There's a sense of wonder about everything in Omno that delighted me. The desire to rush out and see everything, interact with the plants and wildlife, and see what the world will offer next is strong with this title. The art here looks good, and the creatures feel unique. I often forget that this was a solo project, but it was. Omno was a delight when I played it on Xbox Game Pass last year, earning an 8 out of 10 for me, and I still believe it deserves that, especially now that a few bugs have been worked out. However, the UI is still a bit rough on the pause menu, but that doesn't detract from the adventure or the fantastic puzzles. Pick this up if you like platformers or puzzle games. Omno will only take the players about 4 hours, but it's a memorable 4 hours, and replaying it for Humble Choice reminded me of how wonderful that experience was. And that's what I have for the Humble Choice games, but we have a great Humble Collection title as a bonus this month. Into the Pit, a roguelite FPS. Into the Pit has players running around arenas with metal music playing and casting spells at enemies that are more akin to machine guns than magic. Players will have to use fast reactions and a series of upgrades to stay alive as they take out target after target and collect tokens for various uses. Over time, players will unlock citizens that expand the town's functionality and give them uses for their items. Into the Pit will probably be easy for fans of Twitch shooters, but for roguelite fans there is a decent challenge here. Though there is limited content for Into the Pit, it's still a fun and inventive bridge between the two genres. Pick this up if you want a roguelite with FPS gameplay. This reminds me a lot of Doom with that music track in the combat. The experience is intense and I found it decently challenging personally. And that's what I have for the games of Humble Choice. As for the bundle overall, there are 2 headliners. I think either title could have made the bundle worthwhile. However, I had already played 4 of these titles this month, which isn't really normal for me. Why I bring it up though is 3 of them were on Game Pass. I don't know if this is a shift, but I covered the Ascent and Omno a year ago on the Game Pass review, and Mind Scanners in December. The 4th game is Emily's Away 3, which I bought for myself as a fan. Right now, Unsound Mind is on sale until the 8th on Steam, which isn't that long, but it's going for $5, so if that's all you're interested in, it might be better to grab it on Steam. With the exception of Emily is Away and Unsound Mind, these games are reasonably valuable even during sales. Other than that, let's just get to the rankings. Now this month I'm going to try something different. I've divided the games up into 3 categories. Bundle sellers, for games that are worth buying the bundle for just one of these titles. Solid editions, which if you can grab 2 or 3 of them, you'll probably be well served. And the leftovers, which I really wanted to call bag fries, but probably aren't worth the full price of the bundle. I'm open to better names, but I really struggled with this one. With that said, let's get started with the leftovers, and starting from the bottom, I almost created a lower category for this one. It's Gas Station Simulator. I love the genre, I'm not excited by this title, and I doubt I'll return for anything other than farming some easy achievements, which is disappointing. I was getting bored of the concept before my hour was up. The other leftover is Emily is Away. I love the concept here, and the fake Facebook and YouTube are hilarious, but this is a game that lingers a bit too long even with that solid writing, but it's often cheap on Steam as well. Worth checking out if you get the bundle though, the point of this category. And let's just take a peek at how the board looks. It's a shorter board than the grading system, but we'll talk about what's solid this month next. The bottom of the solid editions is Hot Wheels Unleashed. The game is good, and if you're a fan of arcade racing, you'll have fun, but there are a lot of good arcade racers out there, including Trackmania. It's also a title that's pulled back quite a bit by the rampant DLC and monetization. Next up is Mind Scanners. It's a good story and I enjoyed my entire first playthrough. The different devices you use to make the experience are interesting and unique, but it's a game that needs a second playthrough, but has gameplay that really doesn't lend itself to repeated plays. Above that is Omno. I'm a sucker for this game. It's a single developer and I enjoy the art. There's a lot of variety in locations and the creatures bring a smile to my face that few games really do. If you just want to explore a beautiful location, Omno is it. And the top of the solid edition is Unsound Mind. Maybe this will be worth the full price of the bundle to many people, though the sale on Steam does hurt its value. However, this freaked me out, and like I said, I'm a scaredy cat, but this does a great job with its horror. And this is the tier list after the second category. So with 2 games to go, let's find out which order they're going to be in. Second place goes to the Ascent, which is a little repetitive. The world is so brilliant though that I would play through the game just to see the story, locations, character, and hub. I just wish the gameplay was a little more engaging, or at least the levels were shorter or more compact, but there are not many games that get the cyberpunk feeling right. And the best game of this month is A Plague Tale Innocence. I'm going to keep playing this because it's that good. I'm curious where the story goes, I'm interested in what's happening and the motivations of every character. I'm just curious when we're going to see our first real rat because there's been none yet. I just want to know more about these characters, and that's what a good story should do. And this is how the final tier list looks. Like I said, I'm still working on names for the categories. I'm open to suggestions, leave them down below. I think my alternate favorites were full price, waiting for a sale, and left in the cart. But for a bundle, I just don't know if those really work. Still, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's slightly different than last month, but I'm always looking for feedback. I've kind of broken out of a mode here, and I'm just trying a few new things. So last month I teased the third video. That video took a bit of time, but rather than rushing 2 videos out this week, I'm going to be dropping a Goodbye to Zachtronics next week, and I'm really happy with how that turned out. Keep an eye out for that one. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. I mostly do Humble Choice and Game Pass reviews. Liking this video, commenting, and sharing always helps, and I will greatly appreciate that. I know YouTube notifications can be a bit flaky, but there are 2 great ways that guarantee you'll be the first to know when I post a video. I have a Discord link in the description. Feel free to join, and every video is announced there. It's also a fun place to hang out. Second, I'll leave a link to my website subscription page. If you want to see when a new video comes out with the YouTube link in the email, subscribe there. The only time that list is used is when I'm posting new videos. I'm going to be popping up a couple more videos for you to check out if you want to see more from me. See you next time.